Good morning. Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville. My name is Jay Tiefenbrunn and I am very pleased to be your Director of Music Ministries. I'd like to invite you to prepare for singing with just a brief invitation to empathize with the struggle that Black, Indigenous, African American, and people of color have endured. And as we sing these songs today, be in touch with that empathy that you might have for the struggle that they have endured. As we rise in body or in spirit and sing number 149, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Please join us in singing number 149. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat of never weary feet, come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star past. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou hast brought us thus far on the way. Thou hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we meet thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the Our second song this morning was written in a Jackson, Mississippi jail. Written, created, and I'd like to teach it to you now. Can I have a... Buses are coming, oh yes. Buses are coming, oh yes. Buses are coming, buses are coming, buses are coming, oh yes. Buses are coming, oh yes. Buses are coming, oh yes. Buses are coming, buses are coming, buses are coming, oh yes. They're coming from Nashville, oh yes. They're coming from Nashville, oh yes. They're coming from Nashville, coming from Nashville. They're coming from Nashville, oh yes. Rolling to Jackson, oh yes. Rolling to Jackson, oh yes. Rolling to Jackson, rolling to Jackson, rolling to Jackson, oh yes. Better get you ready, oh yes. Better get you ready, oh yes. Better get you ready, better get you ready, better get you ready, oh yes. Buses are coming, oh yes. Buses are coming, oh yes. Buses are coming, buses are coming, buses are coming, oh yes. Good morning. Please take a moment to greet each other.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning on this bright and sunny day. I'd like to invite my second and third grade class to come on up and light the chalice with me. The reading is in your order of service. Anybody else here? All right. Evelyn and I will do it. Okay.
I thought you in it.
All right, we get to do it. All right, if you'll find the words are in your order of service. All right, Evelyn, I'm going to let you do it.
So, do this.
You got it. All right. Come into the circle of love and friendship. Come into the community of justice and goodness. Come and you shall know peace and joy.
I'd like to invite you all to join your hearts and minds in the spirit of worship with these words from The Low Road by Marge Piercy. What can they do to you? Whatever they want. How can you, they can do anything you can't stop them doing. How can you stop them? Alone you can fight. You can refuse, you can take whatever revenge you can, but they roll right over you. 2 people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. 3 people are a delegation, a cell, a wedge. With 4, you can play games and start a collective. With 6, you can rent a whole house, have pie for dinner with no seconds, and make your own music. 13 makes a circle. 100 fill a hall. 1,000 have solidarity and your own newspaper. 10,000 community and your own papers. 100,000 a network of communities. 1,000,000 our own world. It goes one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again after they say no. It starts when you say we and know who you mean. And each day you mean one more.
once there was a little girl named Amanda. And Amanda loved to help people. She would help out around the house. She helped her neighbor rake leaves. She helped her good friend Sarah with her homework. And so one day at school, when her teacher said that everyone was going to get a project, something that would help people, she was thrilled. And everyone would get something a little bit different. Some would help people with chores. Some would help people with someone to accompany them to appointments. They would help them in all different kinds of ways. And when it came to Amanda, her teacher said, I want you to help people in the Walden area of town. They're often more hungry than some of us, and so I'd like you to do something about that. Anything you want, so long as you're helping them with food, some way to help their hunger. Well, Amanda was thrilled with this idea, and she just couldn't wait to figure out what was she going to do. She thought about it all day, and when she got home, she told her dads all about it and told them that what she wanted to do was to make sandwiches and take them over to Walden and give them out. They were all in. And the neighbor who she helped them do that, and her friend who she helped with the homework helped her. They made 100 sandwiches. And then her poppy drove her over to Walden. She had all of those sandwiches, each of them in a paper bag with a piece of fruit. And they got there, and she went around asking people if they would like a sandwich. And she asked young people and old people and big people and little people and rude people and kind people and brown people and white people and black people, and every single one of them said pretty much the same thing. Oh, I've already eaten. I'm not hungry, but thank you. And she couldn't figure it out. What was going on? Why was she not able to help the people? And she noticed this little girl, probably around the same age as her, standing off to the side, looking a little bit amused, a little curious. And so she said, okay. And she walked up and she said, would you like a sandwich? Wouldn't you like to know my name? Said the other little girl. And Amanda was a little embarrassed. She said, oh, yes, I'm so sorry. My name's Amanda. What's yours? My name's Tiny, which seemed appropriate because she was a very, very little girl. And Tiny said, so why are you doing this? Well, it's a school project. Oh, a school project to give away sandwiches? Well, my teacher said I should go to Walden, and here I am, and see what I could do to help people who are hungry. And Tiny said, oh, well, you know, we don't really take food from strangers. Some of my neighbors do go to the soup kitchen every night, and she couldn't help it. She just laughed. She just laughed, and she said, your teacher really told you to do this? Amanda looked at her. Well, then what should I do? She was mad. She was mad. This wasn't very kind. And so Tiny looked at her and she says, well, you could ask us what we want. You know, we have this garden area that the city council let us have, and they gave us seeds, no tools, just lots of seeds. A lot of them aren't any good. A lot of them are for things like turnips. Yuck. Who wants 1,000 turnips? Well, Amanda laughed. She wasn't mad anymore. And so she says, okay, so I'm asking, Tiny, what can we do? What can I do? You can help us get better seeds, not so many turnips. You can help us get some tools. And you know what? You can even get people to write to the city council. Maybe so that they put a grocery store around here, because, you know, most of us don't even have cars. And we get on the bus and it takes us 45 minutes to get to the nearest grocery store. It would be nice to have stuff in the garden that we'd really eat and maybe be able to buy some stuff without taking a whole day to go and do it. Well, Amanda Amanda kind of liked that idea, and she went and she talked with her puppy and her papa. She talked with her friend Sarah, who she helped with her homework. She talked with their neighbor Jim, the one she helped with his yard chores. She talked with her church, she talked with her class, and everyone wrote letters to the city council. And they got better seeds, and they got tools. And all of those people went to be with all of the people in Walden to help them with this project that they had asked for. And Poppy got to know Tiny's mom. Their families became friends. Other people became friends. They were still waiting for that grocery store, but they were also still writing letters. And over time, the plants grew and they harvested them, and everyone had a wonderful harvest meal together in the fall. And Tiny learned some really important lessons right along with Amanda. They learned how much they could accomplish together. And Amanda learned that it's when you ask people what they need, what they want, and then when you work with them, when everyone does it together, you can really accomplish so much. And maybe you might even make a friend. And so we will now sing our children to class using the hymn on the inside back cover of your gray hymnal.
Good morning. My name is Hal Potts, and I'm a member of this church. I'm also a lay minister and also the president of the board. It is my pleasure to welcome you here in the sanctuary and those of you joining us online this morning. In order to reach a wider community than those able to be physically present on Sunday morning, our services are live streamed on YouTube and Facebook. Joys and concerns are not live streamed or recorded. Before I continue, let me remind you to silence your cell phones. As Unitarian Universalists, our spiritual paths vary, but in this congregation we have made a covenant together. We affirm our interdependence, celebrate our differences, and work for justice. We are a welcoming congregation, and we deepen our relationships as we serve our congregation's mission to create community, nurture spiritual growth, and act on our values in the broader world, guided by reason and compassion. I'd like to extend a special welcome to visitors worshiping with us this morning. We ask you to wear the paper name tags because it helps us recognize you as someone we'd like to meet. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you may find it here. Whether you are new to Unitarian Universalism or visiting from another UU congregation, we invite you to stop by the welcome table after the service to have questions answered, and that's in the back in the social area. All are welcome to attend our church, and people become members of this congregation by signing the membership book and supporting the church with their time and finances. If you are considering joining the church, please talk to Gail Seavey, our lead minister. Following the service, we hope that everyone will enjoy coffee and fellowship in the social hall, where you will also find information about current opportunities for engagement and reflection. There are many announcements in the weekly bulletin, which I hope you will take home and read, and I have a few more. Adult Owl begins this morning at 10:30. That's the Our Whole Lives curriculum. Please see the bulletin for details. The 20s and 30s group is meeting for their monthly lunch after the second service in classroom A at 12:30, right off of the social hall today. Join them for food and fellowship. Please return your guests at your table boxes today or consider making a donation in support of the UUSC at the table set up in the social hall. And there will be a mid-year congregational meeting next Sunday, January 26th at 12:30, immediately following the second service in the sanctuary. Come and learn what's going on with the search for the new minister, the building plans, and governance changes. All members are encouraged to attend.
Morning. I'm Ibba Surface, a member of First Unitarian Universalists for over 25 years. I've been part of our stewardship campaign for most of those years, and the reason that I do that year after year is that I know that it's fundamental to who we are and what we can become. And yes, you've probably seen me up here speaking about stewardship before. I've done this before. I've talked about the first time I ever made a pledge many years ago. I've talked about my search for sanctuary after my mother's death. I've talked about all the gifts I've been given by serving at this church. But today, I'm going to talk about something different. It won't be repetitive. Today, I'm going to talk about something that strikes fear into the hearts of our members: the one-on-one stewardship visit. The one-on-one stewardship visit is a time when visiting stewards call each member and ask to visit with them as we make our pledges. We used to do it all the time. We've moved away from it recently, but we're getting back to it this year in preparation for all the changes that are coming down the pike. So here's my secret. I've done these stewardship visits for years, and I really like doing them. It's a great way to make more connections and friends. We'll spend a little time getting to know each other, learning what brought us here, maybe whine a little bit. Certainly talking about what we love about our community. We'll talk a little bit about money, but it's never pushy. It's just a gentle reminder that if we want our congregation to thrive, we have to support it with our money. So one year, I met with a young family. They had 3 young boys. They were all running around. I went out to their house in the country. I can't remember at all what we talked about, but it was just this joyous atmosphere, lots going on. The kids are long grown. The dad from that family now teaches in the OWL program. And every time I see him or any of his family, we have this warm connection from all those years ago. One time I met with a young couple for, I think, breakfast, and talked with them and told them what I knew about the church. They had just started coming in. He went on to be a DRE here for a while. Just last year, I had meetings with 2 different people. We had dinner. They were people I already knew a little bit, but now I have a much stronger connection to them when I see them. And one more story about meetings that I've done. This was a long time ago, and these are the only names I'm going to use. I was very new here, and I was sent, or I was assigned, or whatever. Anyway, I went out to meet with Mike and Sarah Plummer. Now, those 2 had done everything at the church, and I was really green, so I'm sure I learned more than they did about what was going on at the church. But they invited me in. It was a very warm meeting, and I just remember it very, very fondly. All these years now, Sarah's still here doing all the stuff she does, and I get to work with her some. I'm very lucky about that. And, you know, I won't take credit that she's so involved and inspired to work at the church, but maybe just a little from that connection, maybe just a little. You know, I remember as I was leaving her house, there were raccoons in the trash by the back door, and I'd never seen that before, so it's always really stuck out to me for that reason, too. You never know what's going to happen when you make a stewardship visit. A few years ago, Paul Spear, a sociologist, did a study here about the number of personal one-on-one connections that people had. He talked about how our community or group is stronger if more people have those types of personal connections. Last week, in a group of members that I meet with regularly, we were talking about community, and we all agreed that a place where we feel we belong and can be our authentic selves is a place where we have more of those connections. So this year, if you're asked to be a visiting steward, please say yes. I recommend it. Barry Finkelstein, our campaign consultant, will be doing training sessions on Sunday, February 9th and Monday, February 10th. If you're not a steward, you will be contacted this year about a meeting. It's a build-up to the change that's on the verge here, and I urge you, just say yes. You won't regret it. I'm going to close with a few do's and don'ts about this meeting. Do answer the call that you get from a visiting steward. Don't worry about what you'll talk about. It will be a friendly visit. Do invite the visitor to your house if you're so inclined. Don't worry about it being spick and span and clean. Do invite your children to join. They'll add to the atmosphere. Don't worry that it'll be a serious discussion and will be uncomfortable. Do think about what you love and why you support the church, and don't be afraid to ask your visitor questions. They're trained. They're there to help you understand more about the church. Do think about what you want our church to become. So just say yes to a visit. Help us build our community, strengthen our church, and make a new friend.
Thank you, Abba. I'd like to invite you all to take a deep breath. Bring yourself more fully present to this sacred space, to this gathered community, and to yourself. And as you become more fully present to yourself, you may become more aware of those moments from the last weeks or days or hours that you bring here with you, especially those moments that strike your spirit at its core. If any of you have such a profound joy, concern, or sorrow you'd like to make present to this gathered community, you're invited to do so. Our lay minister this morning, Gloria Ballard, will be standing here. She'll be holding this basket of stones, and you're invited, if you'd like, to place a stone in this water that symbolizes our gathered community, holding that joy or concern. And if you would like Gloria or me to read that joy or concern, there's yellow slips of paper in the pew that you could write on, and please write as legibly as possible, and then we can read them. Hand them to me when you move your stone. Thank you. I invite you to hold these joys, these sorrows, these concerns, as well all those that sit silently in your heart in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and love, why are the nations in an uproar? Why do the peoples mutter and threaten? Why do the rich plot with the powerful? They are rebelling against the demands of love and justice. The spirit of life and love within us laughs, cries, and says with anger, there is love set in our hearts and justice in our minds. We are love's children and have understanding that we are part of this universe. Our lives and the tasks of our days belong to one another. May we be wise. May we be warned. May we stick to the paths of love and justice. For on that path, our restless hearts will find love. Blessed be, and amen. So at this time, we will receive our offering. This month, we are sharing the plate, 1/2 of the loose cash that you donate, with Workers' Dignity, which is an amazing grassroots group of people who work together to really demand stolen wages be paid to people. And they're very effective, not only at their goal, but also empowering people to stand up for themselves. And if you'd like to give electronically, there's directions in the order of service, and there's instructions at firstunash.org/give. And I just want to thank you so much for your ongoing generosity. So, of course, the reading today is from a sermon delivered by Martin Luther King Jr. at Ebenezer Baptist Church almost exactly 2 months before he was assassinated in 1968. We all want to be important, to surpass others, to achieve distinction, to lead the parade. Alfred Adler, the great psychologist, contends that this is the dominant impulse, that this quest for recognition, this desire for attention, this desire for distinction is the basic impulse, the basic drive of human life, this drum major instinct. Do you know that a lot of the race problem grows out of the drum major instinct? A need that some people have to feel superior. A need that some people have to feel that they are first, to feel that their white skin ordain them to be first. It has led to the most tragic prejudice, the most tragic expressions of man's inhumanity to man. I always try to do a little converting when I'm in jail. And when we were in jail in Birmingham the other day, the white wardens and all enjoyed coming around the cell to talk about the race problem. And they were showing us where we were so wrong, demonstrating. And they were showing us where segregation was so right. And they were showing us where intermarriage was so wrong. So I would get to preaching, and we would get to talking calmly because they wanted to talk about it. And then we got down one day to the point. That was the second or third day, to talk about where they lived and how much they were earning. And when these brothers told me what they were earning, I said, now, you know what? You ought to be marching with us. You're as poor as Negroes. And I said, you are put in the position of supporting your oppressor because through prejudice and blindness, you fail to see that the same forces that oppress Negroes in America, society oppress poor white people. And all you are living on is the satisfaction in your skin being white and the drum major instinct of thinking that you are somebody big because you are white. And you're so poor you can't send your children to school. You ought to be out there marching with every one of us every time we have a march. Jesus, he says, gave us a new norm of greatness. If you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that the one who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That's a new definition of greatness. By giving that definition of greatness, it means that everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You don't have to know Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love, and you can be that servant. Some say that I am a drum major, but when I die, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for righteousness. And all the other shallow things will not matter. I won't have any money to leave behind. I just want to leave a committed life behind. I just want to be there in love and in justice and in truth and in commitment to others so that we can make this old world a new world. And so ends our reading.
I'd like to invite you to rise in body or in spirit as you're so moved and join us in singing number 151, I Wish I Knew How, hymn number 151.
Wish morning. My name's Elisabeth Geschiere, and I'm the student intern here at FUUN. This morning's meditation is going to give us an opportunity to reflect on the reading, so I invite you to take a deep breath with me and settle more deeply into your seat. Perhaps plant your feet on the ground. In the reading this morning, Dr. King points out the reality that the vast majority of white folks also benefit from ending white supremacy and racism because, as he puts it, the same forces that oppress Negroes in American society oppress poor white people. This is making the compelling case that people have much more in common along socioeconomic lines than when they allow their prejudice or blindness to trick them into believing they are better off, when clearly that's not the case. And I believe this is true. In today's words, we might say that the 99% have much more in common than the 1%. Yet Dr. King's story about the white wardens at the prison also implicitly points out another reality, and that is about the spiritual condition of the guards. For what does it do to a person to participate in such a morally bankrupt system day after day? What does it do to human beings to justify all the injustices committed in the name of racism, like segregation, voter suppression, lynching, and impoverishment? So this morning, I invite us to meditate on this first question. How are our spirits? Are they tainted by superior or oppressive thinking that we need to uproot? Or are they liberated by participation in systems that are in systems of working for justice, equality, and love? And are our spirits being liberated by that work every single day as we are able? Next, I invite us to meditate on how do I personally benefit from ending racism and white supremacy regardless of my skin color. May we live to co-create such a world free of oppression together. Amen.
How would you all like to join choir? Guess what? Everybody gets to be in choir this morning. Can I have a... We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Sing that back for me. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. 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 We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Let's sing it all together. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. These are Ella Baker's words, and it is our hope that together we will make beautiful music and do her words and Bernice Johnson Reagan's music justice and honor. And Melanie Bresnan is going to sing with y'all, so listen to her for your part. I'll point to you. Choir, are you ready? All right, here we go. Everybody. Y'all better sing or I'll be up here alone. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons, is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. That you believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. That which touches me most is that I had the chance to work with people, passing on to others that which was passed on to me. But when young people come first, they have the courage where we failed, and if I can but shed some light as they carry us through the gale. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. The older I get, the better I know that the secret of my going on is when the reins are in the hands of the young who dare to run against the storm. And I needed a clutch for power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be one in the number as we stand against tyranny. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
Thank you all. That is one of my favorite songs. This morning's reading from Dr. King's sermon, The Drum Major Instinct, reminded me of an experience when I was 16 years old that turned out to be one of the most crucial coming-of-age moments in my youth. It occurred during the summer after my sophomore year in high school while I was on a 3-week-long leadership development and service type trip in Britt, Iowa, which is a small town of about 2,000 people, which I learned is the hobo capital of the world. Fun fact. So while I was there, which was quite a cross-cultural experience, the group of 4 young women that I was with received leadership development training from the minister of the church that was hosting us, and we also helped to run a sort of summer program. We'd regularly meet with the minister to check in, and one morning when Pastor Joel and I were meeting, probably discussing big theological questions that I had and lessons I was trying to learn, I remember the conversation taking on a certain gravitas, and I remember Pastor Joel looking directly at me as if he could see into my soul. And he said, "Elizabeth, do you want to do great things for God?" And I responded with just one word, but it felt like it weighed 10,000 pounds. Yes. And then he said something that I didn't expect and have never forgotten. He said, "One thing I've learned as I get older is that it's possible that the greatest thing I will ever do is to raise a son or a daughter who will be great." In that moment, Pastor Joel taught me the same lesson that Dr. King taught his congregation on that Sunday morning in February of 1968. The greatest thing is not about being in front or being the loudest or getting the most accolades. Greatness is about serving. Greatness is about playing your part with all of your skills and talents that you've been gifted and those that you've worked very hard to acquire. And greatness is especially about playing your part in community in a way that contributes to the musicality of the whole. The choir might know something about that. You see, what Dr. King's sermon implies is that every one of us can be great because a marching band is not made up of tens or hundreds of drum majors all conducting. In fact, that would be useless. Who would they be conducting? But in fact, a marching band is made up of a whole bunch of different musicians playing a whole lot of different instruments. And only when their various sounds come together, do they even create a song. So one of the ways we can celebrate and honor the life of Dr. King is to become more knowledgeable about the other members of the marching band that he was a part of in his time. They really number in the tens of thousands, perhaps even the hundreds of thousands. But this morning, I want to focus on learning the names and stories of just a few of the women who were some of the major players in the freedom movement in Mississippi. When I found out that Reverend Gail was going to focus on Ella Baker, I decided to take the opportunity myself to learn more about Fannie Lou Hamer, since those are two women that were both giants in the civil rights movement, and so I figure we should all be better acquainted with them. So that's how I came to study this last week the incredible story of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which came into being in April of 1964. I used a book by Barbara Ransby on Ella Baker and the Black Freedom Movement, and I watched a documentary from 2002 called Sisters in the Struggle, so that's where most of this information comes from. So Fannie Lou Hamer had gotten involved in the movement about 2 years prior to the MFDP being founded through voter registration efforts. In fact, on the way home from her very first meeting and action, which was simply that of registering to vote along with 17 other people, she was fired from the plantation where she had worked for 18 years, and later she was harassed and shot at by local vigilantes. Such violence, as well as jailings and beatings, would become regular occurrences in Hamer's activist life over the next few years. In November of 1963, both Fannie Lou Hamer and Ella Baker were deeply involved in a statewide campaign in Mississippi called Freedom Vote, where they put together a mock election so that they would prove that Black voters would participate in elections if they were not harassed or blocked or intimidated from doing so. This was one of the campaigns that was carried out with the help of student volunteers who were mostly white, and many of whom were from prestigious northern universities. Organizers like Baker and Hamer continued to strategize and mobilize, trying to build more power and momentum each step of the way so that they would actually make real change. So that carries us from 1962, when Hamer got involved, to 1963 with the Freedom Vote campaign, to then in April of 1964, Fannie Lou Hamer, along with other women such as Victoria Gray Adams, Annie Devine, and Unita Blackwell, officially co-founded the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party at a rally of about 200 people in Jackson, the state capital. So I loved that we sang that song at the beginning of the service about the buses going down to Jackson, so we can kind of imagine what that was like. So the major goal of the MFDP was to challenge the all-white ruling Democratic Party in the state, which was notoriously racist. And they planned to use the Democratic National Convention in August to make their case on a national stage. For the 5 months leading up to the DNC, these women and men of the MFDP organized tirelessly at the state level, while Ella Baker and others worked at the national level to get networks of sympathetic allies and media attention, and to prepare all the logistics. So the story goes that the 6 MFDP delegates, which included the 3 women I mentioned, essentially got snuck into the DNC in New Jersey that August by delegates from other states who were on their side. And their aim was to simply be an alternative delegation to the all-white racist delegation. To get official status, though, they had to plead their case to the Credentials Committee, and Fannie Lou Hamer was the one to make the rousing speech, which became famous for the line, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." Long story short, and all sorts of insidious political drama later, the Democratic Party officially offered the MFDP just 2 symbolic seats on the convention floor, but with no voting power. So they refused and went home feeling cheated and betrayed, but also more resolved than ever. A few months later, these same 3 women, Fannie Lou Hamer, Victoria Gray Adams, and Annie Devine, also organized a massive action in Washington, D.C. at the House of Representatives that sought to prove that Mississippi's reps were elected illegally because of the exclusion of qualified voters, because of their race. So all of this organizing of the MFDP was helping to build and intensify pressure on President Johnson to get the Voting Rights Act passed, which finally happened 1 year after the DNC drama. So these are just a few stories of some various players in the Marching Band for Justice. And now Gail will continue.
But I will be brief. So, I belonged in a marching band in high school. It was awful. I hated it. I played badly. I could not actually play and march and step at the same time. I did not like the itchy wool, very unflattering white uniforms. So I never dreamed of being a drum major. But I did want to be special, right? I mean, what 16-year-old doesn't want to be special? So I went to art school because that was going to be my road to be special. And I lived in an very poor African-American neighborhood there, because that's where a lot of the students lived. It was close to school. And I got to know my neighbors, and I was confused. I was so naive. I had no understanding of why they had so few resources and why I had so many resources. And then King was killed while I lived there. And that night, in the city I was in, there were not riots. It was the saddest, most powerful vigil I have ever been to. The whole neighborhood was out in just devastating sorrow. The only thing that helped me was studying, that answered any of my questions, taught me how to deal with all of this, was studying community organizing with Carl Braden. And it wasn't until I came to the South that I understood that I had been marching in a parade for 35 years, having learned community organizing, of people working in justice that went back generations and will go forward for generations. When I got to this church, I saw for the first time, how many of you have seen the TSU, some of you work there, TSU marching band. Boy, I learned what King really meant by a drum major, right? I mean, that band really made my northern band look pathetic. Not only do they have rich rhythms that we couldn't even imagine, they weren't like marching military drill team, were they? They're dancing, they're very highly choreographed, and they can play and dance at the same time, and the drum major is special. The drum major is special. Okay? And I saw that this church was a part of this band from the day it was founded in the 1950s. I met people here who, for instance, Ralph and Jean Kazort, who worked at Meharry. He was a professor at Meharry. She was a librarian at Fisk their whole adult lives. And they were one of the few people during the student sit-ins that owned a house. And so when the students from Fisk would be put in jail, they would be able to take out loans to get bail money and get them out. And they did that over and over and over again. There's so many stories of people that they shared with me. I would say right now, as we look at the racism in our public schools to this day, so interwoven with everything the public schools do, that right up there, through those doors, was run by people in this, started and run by people in this church, including Peggy Palmer, who was the minister's wife, was the very first integrated nursery school in this city. Instead of like all the many other churches started schools at that time so that they could keep them segregated. This church did the opposite. Okay? So I knew that I was part of a parade that went deep. Today, where I continue, and many people here, how many people here have ever done anything with beloved community? Anything, read a book, gone to a reading? So today, after this service, they're looking at videos from the 1619 Project, a history of slavery in this country. Very moving, and get to discuss it. Those are the kind of day-to-day things that we can all do. How many people here are involved in Nashville Organized for Action and Hope? Done anything, gone to any of the things, okay? So that's where I spend all my time. Because it's late, I'm just gonna end with one story about Ella. We're gonna have to talk about Ella another day. But what I wanna say is that we spent 3 Saturdays in December and January with the leadership of NOAA, about 10 black people, 10 white people, working very, very hard to understand how our white supremacy culture, enculturating us as white and black people very differently, has kept us from being as much a change agent to end racism in this city as we could be. Very deep personal work. And it all started with me having insights and learnings right from the first moment. The facilitators asked us to do something we do here at church often, to introduce ourselves briefly using our preferred pronouns. And so, of course, here at church, I have learned, instead of always doing I, me, mine, which actually was a hard-won thing to learn. I, me, mine, to stand up for your own voice, but I've learned because of our transgender, to support our transgender members and friends, to give them a chance. I say she, her, hers. So I said that, and I was stunned when the African-American women that I have worked with and know so well, all said, we, ours, us, or we, us, ours. We, us, ours. I don't know why I was so stunned, but I knew that they really thought in terms of being a day-to-day part of this parade in a way that I, after all these years, still did not. And I am learning still from them. They are my leaders. I follow them in this parade. I invite all of you to find your everyday ways that you can be a part of this parade that has gone back and will move forward. May it be so.
We'll close our service this morning with number 153. Oh, I woke up this morning. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in the singing. This morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I was walking and talking with my mind, and it was stayed. Walking and talking with my mind, and it was stayed. Walking and talking with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Singing and praying, and it was stayed. Singing and praying with my mind, and it was stayed. Singing and praying with my mind, and it was stayed. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Please join me in the chalice extinguishment located at the bottom of your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
May we always remember that greatness is defined by service and humility. May we have the courage, wisdom, and fortitude to find our place in the marching band for justice, with hearts full of grace and souls generated by love, as if our lives depended on it. Our service is over. Let our service begin again in the world renewed. Go in peace.